So families, I don't need to tell you all this because there's so many of you. Families are emotional systems. They react on the basis of emotions. Emotions tend to be unresolved issues that in the past tend to continue to replay themselves in some kind of way unless addressed in some sort of fashion. Triangles are a basic building block where people gossip, people talk about, that happens in families all the time. There are different ways in which conflict tends to be handled in families, and you have patterns that continue to present themselves. I mean, all of this sort of stuff is, sort of the way the bread and potatoes of, working with families. And they are always there. They're very complex. They're very challenging. And being able to sort that out and figure out how does it work in your family and how are we going to, in fact, I oftentimes think of governance. We all talk about family governance. I oftentimes think of family governance's main job is to try to make it so that families don't get to do their old patterns as a way of making decisions, because if left to their old patterns, sometimes they get really stuck. So governance is a way of creating some structures and processes that are there. But I just think it is an emotional system, and it's one that is there. I think I told you that story about my first experience on a TV show was with this young woman whose father, she was in business with her dad, and she was trying to get the moderator of the show, who was Joyce Brothers. Is anybody know Dr. Joyce Brothers? Oh my God, Dr. Joyce Brothers.
One of the first celebrity psychologists.
Oh boy, and she was going at this young woman who was probably about 25 years old. And she said, but your father, he's just acting like any old boss. That's what bosses do. And that is actually sometimes true, because some people mistake what their father's doing or their parent is doing. She said she tried everything to get her to understand that it really was different having your father as a boss. So finally we have a break, and she goes walking around, and she comes back, and then Joyce Brothers starts, I'm not giving up on this topic. So she goes at her again, and she said, okay, here's the best way that I can tell you. Her name was Rochelle. She said, here's the best way I can tell you about why it's different if it's your father versus just a boss. She said, this guy could yell at me and tell me what to do. Let's just say it's a boss. And I could turn around 3 times, rub my eyes, and it would just be a boss. But when it's my father, I can turn around, rub my eyes, it's still my father when I get there. And I'm going to have to deal with him at the dinner table tonight. And so it's not the same. And dealing with those emotional patterns are what it's all about. And she was right. I mean, it was what it's all about.